Hello and welcome to this session of Ghazali. We have two extraordinary persons in studio today, and one of them has come all the way from Toronto and New York for the film that she has produced on Badshah Khan. I wonder how many of you know who Badshah Khan was, because nowadays he has become part of history and some people think it's ancient history. Actually, it is very recent history. Badshah Khan, who is Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, more known as Frontier Gandhi, colleague and disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, he died 1988. And still, most of the Indians have forgotten him. Not only most of the Indians, but most of the subcontinental people have forgotten him. And actually, he was a legend. He was a miracle. He was a giant man who walked on this planet, in this part of the world, and made history. And we have no concern, no respect for history, and therefore we have forgotten him. But not everybody has forgotten him. There are people who remember him so much, and one of them is Terry McLuhan. Terry McLuhan chose to make a film on that great man who walked on this planet and made history, and she thought that history must be told to the people of that subcontinent where he made the history. She studied and researched for 22 years all the aspects of his life and thought that he needs to be filmed. She did something like 22 years, more than 500 interviews, and covered whole of Pakistan, whole of Afghanistan, most of India, talked to many leaders, many thinkers, many historians, and most important, the followers of Badshah Khan. So the film that she has made is based on this fantastic research, which I would personally say should have been done by some Indian. But nevertheless, I consider as Indian or a fellow Indian, and she has made this film. So I will begin by asking her a couple of questions, and not only me. With me I have on my right hand side Mr. Makarand Brahme, who is also a filmmaker. And actually 2 years ago, his film was the lead film of the International Film Festival. And that film was on music, completely different subject, on Rajan and Sajan Mishra, Advait Sangeet, and that film made waves in the film festival. So we have one filmmaker, another filmmaker, and I happen to be just a journalist, compeer, anchor person. So let me begin by asking first our friend, our guest, Terry McLuhan, Miss Terry McLuhan, how did she think in the first place of this film?
I didn't think of the film. This film, this subject matter, this extraordinary giant of the human spirit came to me. And under the most unusual circumstances, and it was through a book. And I had never been to South Asia. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in South Asia, and we're talking now about the mid-'80s. And so a colleague of mine at Berkeley, a university out in California, had given me a book in September 1987, which was the first biography written in English about Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, called Nonviolent Soldier of Islam, written by Eknath Easwaran, Indian author who is a Fulbright scholar at Berkeley, and one of the great sort of leading writers on Gandhiji. But he also had known both Gandhi and Frontier Gandhi. So this book was given to me as a gift, and I thought they had selected the wrong person for this, and I said, I'm not sure that I can help you with this. They had wanted me to do something with the story. It was that sort of general. So I took the book back to New York, and around 2 o'clock in the morning, when I do most of my serious reading, I picked it up, a remarkable book, written really by an angel, highly poetic. Something happened within about 15, 20 minutes of reading this remarkable story. I felt things shift in the room. It was palpable, and I thought, oh, pay attention, something is happening here, and something very serious is happening with your life. And so as I read, I thought first of all, at that time, I realized I encountered a remarkable human being through the written word. And next day, of course, as is My wish, generally, when I become enthusiastic about something, I picked up the phone and told everybody. And they said, well, what are you going to do about this? 2 months later, I was invited to India. And I'd never been. And I was invited to represent the motion picture industry of the United States, along with 2 other individuals from Hollywood. So 2 Hollywood directors and 1 independent director from New York. And so in the course of our stay in Mumbai and Kolkata and showing our work, each one of us was asked, what is your next project? In spite of myself, publicly, I said, well, I'm making a movie about Frontier Gandhi.
Just like that.
Just like that. It was like a state that was, it just came from there, straight through.
So you were straight away guided into this?
Completely. And our hosts were Satyajit Ray and Shyam Benegal. So they looked at me and said, you are? I said, yes, I am. So how long do you think that this will take? And I said, well, I think maybe 2-3 years max. And so, well, I said, anything we can do for you and everything. And so I stayed behind. I had my visa extended, and I began my research at that very moment. Because I thought, well, I've now committed, and there's no stepping back. So it's a very interesting thing about the way in which life unfolds before you and the opportunities that you are given if you are aware and choose to seize them. That's the short answer.
Yeah, but actually it is fascinating that right in the beginning, you were blessed by author like Eknath Easwaran.
That's right.
Satyajit Ray.
Satyajit Ray and Shyam Benegal.
And all the 3, in a way, in their own respect, legends in the field of literature and films. So I think the film had a fantastic start.
It had a great blessing to begin with. And it was Shyam Benegal who had recommended that I seriously consider Om Puri as the voice characterization of Frontier Gandhi. And urged me to speak to him. And, you know, as you know, what happened was Om very graciously agreed to do this. He already knew, of course, about Badjahan. And he was in Los Angeles doing post work on Charlie Wilson's War. And so I flew to Los Angeles and we spent 7-8 hours in a recording studio and worked together there. So he brings an enormous amount to the picture. I always say to Om, you have a voice that can launch 1,000 ships. And that's what I was looking for. That is that real gravitas. It's very emotional. And he had memorized every single word of the script by the time he had arrived in LA. It was very impressive to me. It was a great joy to work with him.
But apart from that, he is remembering the script. The film is quite contemporary and extempore and historical, both. Contemporary in the sense that you have in that film so many people who are today commentators, historians, journalists commenting about it. Historical in the sense you cover a whole range of something like more than 100 years. And it's journalistic in the sense that journalists actually are looking at it from past as well as from present point of view, as many leading journalists are
in the
there
picture.
in the film.
Yeah, I mean, the engine of the film are these veteran journalists like yourself, and one in particular, Saeed Naqvi, was Badjahan's press secretary as a youngster in his 20s when he was a cub reporter. So he actually followed and traveled with Badjahan and Mahatma Gandhi, and so had so many wonderful stories to tell.
That itself is a great, I would not say coincidence, because you always consider there is nothing like coincidence, it's cosmic intervention. That's absolutely...
synchronicity.
Yeah, so I think it is a fantastic thing that you could get Saeed Naqvi as well as beginning with Satyajit Ray. But I think most important thing that should be brought to notice of the viewers is that 22 years of research means when you begin in the late 80s to now is the most turbulent, most violent and most vicious part of history, of recent history in this subcontinent. I mean, in this period you will find Rajiv Gandhi was killed. Just 3 years before that, I mean 3 years before you began the film in 84, Mrs. Gandhi was killed. After Rajiv Gandhi we find in Afghanistan Najib was killed and hanged. In between Taliban was born. and in between the Soviet forces withdrew from Afghanistan in 1989, and that vacuum was filled by Mujahidins. Mujahidins were replaced by Taliban, and it's continuously shaking up. It's continuously so horrifying atmosphere in the subcontinent, particularly in that part. And you actually conducted interviews in this violent, turbulent environment. So, weren't you ever worried that whether you have to give up the project?
No, I don't know. The passion just grew and grew and grew, and it's still there because I'm working on distribution. But I think that when you are deeply engrossed in something like this, that goes way beyond you. This story goes way, way beyond you. This legacy is everybody's legacy. This, as I said earlier, giant of the human spirit belongs to everyone on the planet. He's not just Indian or Afghan or Pashtun or Muslim. He is that universal way shower. And these way showers come every 200 years, if we're lucky, to lift us and to help us reach the higher angels of our nature. I profoundly believe that. And I also feel that someone like Bajahan, there are others, but they are rare. They are lighthouses of the greatest magnitude. And there is just no denying that. And I think these are some of the things that kept me so close to the story. And persistence beats resistance. And if you don't have persistence as part of your nature, you will not accomplish such things. And you'll always encounter resistance. That's just part of the story. And there were three things in particular that kind of were the glue, the bond for me. One was his spiritual and moral certitude. I was very drawn to that, and that's undeniable. The other thing was a little bit more obvious, and that was his uncommon courage and fearlessness. And then there was a third thing that I think that we all quietly, and maybe not so quietly, aspire to and hope for, and that is a profound absence of doubt in his life. No doubt whatsoever. Imagine having that in your life. So these were some of the things that just held me, and I thought, I will complete this. And yes, there was a lot of resistance to it. Had a fabulous Indian crew. My colleagues in United States and Canada did not want to go to Afghanistan at this time, or Pakistan.
Actually, I was about to ask you as a filmmaker that it's such a difficult terrain where you have gone and shot. And it is so violent, as Kumar has said. And how you gathered this crew and the people, I'm sure in America, Canada, people must have hesitant to go there.
Well, absolutely. They felt that, you're a little bit crazy to do such a thing. And I arrived in India knowing nobody. And at that time, there were no directories like for cinematographers or filmmakers or anything like that. You just had to do it by hook or crook. And I found Sanjay Agrawal. There were only two people in all of India who were conversant with high-definition technology. And there were only two cameras in all of India that existed. And so I commandeered one of them out of Bangalore. And Sanjay, who won the highest award just a few weeks ago as top cinematographer in India for not only nonfiction but fiction, has gone on to do many great things. I could not have completed this picture without him. And I had a wonderful sound engineer. And so between three of us, we were doing the work of about 15 people. I was chief makeup artist, of course. and you know what that means.
Yeah, I know.
And director, and of course writing as you go along, making things up as you go along, dreaming up the various scenarios. And interviewing the presidents, as you know, I interviewed President Karzai and also President Musharraf, and former President of India, I.K. Gujral, Prime Minister.